Today on the podcast, we had Kisha, who came to join us today to talk about her firm and as she approaches providing advisory services. And we did a little coaching that we thought you might enjoy listening to and maybe even resonate with you and where you're at with your firm and your business. And we hope you enjoy it very much. And just as a sidebar, if you would like to be on the podcast and be coached, then please visit www.thepracticingaccountant.com/podcast. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hi, Kisha. How are you today?
Pretty good, Doug. How are you?
I'm awesome.
Good.
I would love to learn and hear a little bit about you.
Well, I don't know if it's all that exciting, but but I'll tell you a little bit about me. So Kisha, my name is Kisha Shabazz, based in Jacksonville, Florida. I've been doing taxes since college, so quite a while now. Been a CPA since 2011. I started a tax practice as a side hustle years ago, more than 10 years ago. The last 5 years, I rebranded it while I was working in corporate America. And I said, hey, I probably should get serious about this because this could be my exit plan. So officially, as of December the 6th of last year, I exited corporate America. So this past tax season was my first tax season full-time in the business. And boy, were there so many challenges.
Well, before we get to those challenges, so you were basically doing two jobs for a period of time where you had your day job and then you had this side hustle of doing taxes was it for like friends and family or?
Mostly friends and family. And then the last 2 years, I started getting referrals from those clients. And so I started to grow, and probably the last year, 2024, I had to turn away clients because I just didn't have the capacity between working full time and then doing the taxes on the side.
So taking it back to December. So what was kind of the moment where you decided I'm leaving this job, and what was it that allowed you to kind of take that step?
Well, it was a culmination of things. It's something I've been planning since, so I'm 40, and it's something I've been planning since 35. I actually wanted to exit corporate America at 35, but that didn't happen. There were we purchased a home. My husband decided to go back to school to get his master's to become a clinical mental health. And so it was just a few delays. But last year, with everything that happened, I had some health challenges with my mom. I was her full-time caregiver for a while, took some time off my corporate job. And after that, I said, you know what? I don't want to go back. I don't want to have, 2024 was my last year juggling the two. And so I said, this is it. This is it. I'm going back, giving my 30-day notice. I gave it. And December 6th, I walked away and I said, oh boy, I'm doing this.
It's happening.
It's happening. I'm doing this.
It's interesting because those stories, usually there's a number they wanted to hit of, I want to have this many clients or this much revenue. And everyone's got a different version, right? And
yeah, I didn't care about that because I knew that the demand was there. And even though I didn't, when I exited corporate and decided to go into the business full time, I wasn't replacing my corporate salary.
Yeah.
But I was okay with that. I saved for it. I planned for it for years, had a backup plan. And so I said, you know what, I'm just going to do this. Eventually I will, not only make my corporate salary, but exceed my corporate salary because that's the goal anyway.
Yeah, right.
And so I just decided it didn't matter. I'll just do whatever it takes to get there because I know that it's possible.
And you also had, the momentum that you had been building for years of clients. And I'm assuming you had software and you had, the systems and the workflow, and you had a lot of things that you had already kind of figured out before you stepped off.
Correct. So I had the software. My systems, I wouldn't quite call it a system or workflow.
Not yet.
I have something in place. I'll say that. Something to get me through tax season. But yes, I've already had the clientele. I think when I exited, I had about a good 85 tax clients.
Wow.
Yes. So a good 85 tax clients. So where I'm at now with the business. So yes, made it through the first tax season. It was great. And of course, things kind of slow down when you only have that tax only model.
Yeah.
And so now I'm trying to figure out this advisory model. And
Mm.
boy, has that been challenging.
Has it?
It has
Tell me,
been
tell me
very
more. Tell
challenging.
me more about these challenges.
Well, it's, leaving a corporate space and coming over to public accounting. So I kind of did things backwards. So I didn't start in public accounting. I started in
Mm-hmm.
industry, spent about 20 years in industry. And then now I have a CPA firm, right? So now I'm moving into the public practice. But I don't have a blueprint because I never worked in
Mm-hmm.
public accounting. And
Mm-hmm.
so trying to figure that out with connecting with other CPAs. I have a good friend he's a tax professional in public accounting, and so trying to figure this out, but also trying to figure out this advisory model that everyone has been talking about. Every conference I attend, every webinar, AICPA, no, you need to transform your firm into this advisory firm because this is what the clients want. This is how you're going to work 35 hours or 25 hours a week and make good money. So all the hype, but how do I implement that? And that's kind of where I am, in terms of, okay, so I have this idea. It makes sense because I somewhat offer advisory services here and there to my clients. So it definitely makes sense. But what does that look like to transition from my client solely seeing me as that tax professional to more the advisor, and also structuring my firm on that more advisory route going forward and making that transition, and also adding the technology, the workflows, the system, the processes, all the things in place, right? And I'm a solopreneur.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what would be an example of a service, an advisory service that you might have interest in offering some of those 85 clients?
I think the low hanging fruit would be tax planning.
Mm. Is that something you currently provide for free?
Yes, very light touch though.
Mm.
Very light touch, only for a handful of my business clients.
Okay. And light touch meaning you have a meeting or two, or kind of walk me through that.
Yes, I have a meeting or two. I have the, hey, quick question. How
Mm.
can I save on taxes for this?
Yeah. Right.
So
And then,
the low hanging fruit items, right? We'll talk through those. But yeah, it's always the quick question, or it's always, hey, do you have a 30 minutes? Can I set up some time with you? I'm thinking about doing XYZ, and I haven't been charging for
okay, so you're basically kind of giving that pro bono right now.
it. Yes.
Okay, so what would that look like if you were to put some structure and packaging around tax planning? What would that look like?
I think for me, I would like to build it into one package. So one
Mm-hmm.
package in terms of tax prep, tax planning. I also have some clients, with the 1099 needs, also with estimated tax calculations for the quarterlies. And so I would ideally like to create a package for that and bill for that tax planning time, right?
Okay.
And have it as a recurring, like an annual recurring model.
Okay. And so this would be something that lives as this is what I offer. This is the package I offer. These are the things that I include. This is the monthly charge. And that's about it, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And what's preventing you from doing that?
What's preventing me from doing that? I think one, actually structuring that, being able to communicate that to the clients. But I think the other piece that's preventing me from doing that is, how much do I charge for that?
Hmm. What's your current pricing model? Like, how do you currently charge clients?
I usually charge them based on return, based on the complexity, and then for the business clients, if they need me to calculate their estimated quarterly payments, I'll add an extra fee on for that. So
Okay.
it's usually very specific around the tax prep.
Gotcha. And those roundabout numbers you're using, are those based off of an estimate of time. It sounds like a little bit of difficulty and complexity is something that you sprinkle in there.
Yes,
Um,
definitely complexity. Um, Not so much time because I know how much time it'll take me roughly to do a
mhm,
tax return. I'm pretty efficient in that way. I've been
mhm.
using the same software for the last 10
Yeah,
years,
you
so
got it down. Yeah.
pretty efficient. But and I will look at some of the surveys and say, okay, what are some of the, based on the surveys, what are some of the other firms charging, and kind of
Okay.
take that and adjust it to what I think people will pay based on the market and based on the level of complexity.
And have you seen any evidence on those surveys about what someone might be charging for a package that you've just described?
No, only for the tax prep.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, only for tax
So
prep.
let's. Now, I think I heard you say you want to charge monthly, right?
Yes,
And so that
or
means there's
quarterly, or
or
quarterly,
quarterly. Okay.
just recurring billing.
And what would and I want you to be a little bit specific here.
Hmm.
A quarterly service from you in the realm of tax planning and prep would include what? Like if this was on your beautiful website, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I love it.
It
So if
isn't
this,
finished. I need to finish it
oh,
actually.
they're never finished.
Oh,
They're never finished. We always say that too. And then 5 years from now, we're like, I got to
I
do
need to
that.
finish. I
Yeah,
know.
totally.
I know.
So if this was listed here and there was a tax planning package,
Hmm.
what would you include under it? What would come with it?
Good question. Basically, what I mentioned. So I would like to have, especially for my business
Are
clients.
you taking notes over there, Keisha?
Am I taking notes?
Yeah.
I can take notes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, you're about to make your package, so it's a
I'm
good,
about to
perfect
make my
time.
yes. I'm about
Mm-hmm.
to make my package.
Yep.
So for my business clients, when I think about what do they need, so not only do they need the tax prep, but really they need touch points at least twice throughout the year,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So how I would envision it, tax prep would be included, estimated quarterly taxes, and then maybe two 30-minute sessions with me, or maybe one hour session with me
Mm-hmm.
at some point at some point in the year before the next tax season, to kind of just go through their financials, go through and discuss where they're at, some of the update on their goals, and to potentially, discuss, hey, what can we do at this point before the next tax season
Mm-hmm.
if you want to reduce your tax bill.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be, well, do you want to reduce your tax bill, or you're trying to purchase a home and you can't show a loss? What do we need to do? But really having that conversation outside of tax season, because of course, tax season, it could be a drain.
Yeah.
But having that
Hard to find the
conversation
time.
and being more proactive and
Mm-hmm.
getting my clients to think more proactively in a more
Okay.
structured way.
Okay. Now, I'm not asking you to say this out loud, but can you think of a number right now for just to say one of your average clients that, based on what you know you charge them already,
Hmm.
and including more of this advisory flair of being someone who's involved more often and more frequently and more available, can you think of a number that you might charge for it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And are you currently in get new clients mode?
Yes.
And is there a prospect in your pipeline right now in which you might be in some degree of negotiation or discussion about working together that you could test this out on?
Yes.
And will you test this out on them?
Absolutely.
Nice. There we go. We're done. Okay. End the call.
End the call.
End the call.
That was quick and easy.
But I want you to try it in a place that's safe. And I know a new client isn't necessarily like safe, but it's a great way to test this out, just to see what they think, what they feel, how it sounds to them. Usually we'll find out that they're more receptive to it than we thought. And a lot of this is just our own unfounded fear of rejection or getting a no. Um, Tell me your relationship with value. And what I mean by that is, like, how often do you focus more on what the client wants and gets rather than what you do?
I would probably say 90% of the time, I focus more on what the client wants and what the client gets versus what I actually do.
Which is perfect. And that's exactly how I want to make sure you're speaking with the clients, is in that realm of 90% what they get, the outcome that they receive, rather than the work and effort you put into it or how you do what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And as you, I'm sure, know, and we talk about a lot here, is just accountants get caught up in how they do the things they do, how they make, the cake or the thing that they're trying to provide their clients. And they don't spend enough time thinking about how the client is perceiving the work that's being done and what value it provides to them. And that value is important because it allows us to charge more than we probably normally would. Now, it's easy to fall into the, well, I did that in like no time and it really didn't take me any time at all. And I still got $500 for it. Like, that's great. That's fine. But the value is, the fact that you save them all this money, the fact that they feel secure, the fact that they sleep at night, the fact that they, have this great provider who's available to them and support them in their businesses that they just haven't seen before. And that's extremely valuable to a business or an individual.
Yeah, I agree. I had a new client this tax season, with high net worth individual.
Mm.
And I totally, after I quoted her, I totally just kicked myself in the butt because I said, "Oh my gosh, I totally should have quoted her more," because I also did a little research for her. And once I had a conversation, and we were talking about how she could potentially leverage her RSUs and some of the things she can do, and I'm listening to her respond to me and say, "Oh, I never thought of that before. Oh, this is so helpful." And what else can I do? I'm going to implement this starting next year. It's too late right now, but I'm going to implement this next year. And I thought to myself, like, I just gave this away.
But what happened in the moment, though? Like imagine yourself back in that conversation, speaking with this high net worth individual, and what kind of held you back from asking more than maybe you normally would? What held you back?
I don't know. I think for me it was more so autopilot.
Hmm.
It was okay. How do you, and I think it's autopilot, and how she framed the question. It was, how much do you charge to do my taxes?
Mm-hmm.
And then the question, then you go through the discovery. What do you have going on? The W-2. Do you have any rental property, etc., etc. Right?
So,
You understand the financial situation. But then after you quote that, then it's, oh, also, how can you help me with XYZ?
right, right. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I have to read this to you. So I had a prospect client reach out to me here recently, and we're meeting tomorrow. And he was kind enough to send like a 4 or 5 page almost dissertation around where he's at in his firm and what he's trying to do with this firm.
Okay.
And at the very bottom of it, you'll love this. You ready? The very bottom of it says, "Here are my goals of working with you. Number one, not spending too much money.
Oh, wow.
Number two, finding an employer or partner," which is good. Number three, guidance on best practice. But I just love that lead, like not
Hmm.
spending too much money. Like, okay, wow, this is gonna be a fun conversation.
Exactly. And it's all, and spending too much money, that's all relative, right?
Oh, it totally is. And
Yeah,
more importantly, like, what's the outcome you're trying to create and what's that worth to you?
that's
Not
right.
not to say that I'm going to charge 20% of that, but I could.
Right.
I
Right.
have an individual I also work with that when he prices things using value-based pricing, he will look at it as, how much do I think I can save this individual?
Hmm.
And if I decided I wanted to take a 10% cut of that, what would I charge to earn that? And what's that number? And it's not necessarily what he's actually going to charge the client, but just to create an awareness around the benefits that you're providing. And you're right. Once they hear a number, then they tend to like throw stuff at you and, oh, you should look
Right.
at this too. And well, that's a little unfair. So if you did that conversation again with that high net worth individual, what would you do differently?
What would I do? I would probably ask more questions, first of all.
before
Yeah,
before
before I quote a price.
right. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I would definitely ask more questions. And you know what? And to be honest, I would even lead with the cost saving or the tax savings conversation.
Hmm.
and kind of feel how the client feels about that. Is that something that they want? And
Hmm.
then I would know then what type of value I can actually create for the client. And then absolutely my pricing would have been different.
So what would do you have a current like onboarding client process or checklist or anything? I'm not talking about like the tax information, but just like the pipeline, the questions you ask, and
It's something that I've kind of rehearsed and in the back of my mind off the cuff when we're having the
well, you've got some
consultations.
homework. You've got more homework
Yes.
now,
Okay, more homework.
and that homework is, what is your discovery call? Like, what does that look like?
Okay.
What questions are you asking? And these aren't, these are nice open-ended questions. And what I mean by that is you're asking questions that usually begin like with what. Like, what do you hope to achieve in our relationship? What are your primary goals for our relationship? What do you hope that we can do together as partners in this relationship? What is a very positive outcome from the work that we would do together? What are your concerns? You see, those what questions just
Yes.
really inspire
Yes.
thought and get your potential client engaged with you, and you're going to be able to explore with curiosity, and you're going to get them to think about this differently because they're so used to professional service providers that just get in, they give me your information, you have to have it in by February 15th. If
Right.
you do that, then I'll have it out. If not, it's going to be extended, and then I'll see you in August or September, and we'll do this again, and I'll see you next year. Like, that's what they're used to.
Hmm.
And so this key with advisory is thinking about this like a relationship, not necessarily a transaction.
Right.
And so we have to change their minds. A lot of them being prospects,
Hmm.
they kind of have some presumptions on how this is going to go based on their prior history. And that's where you have an opportunity to really change that perspective and really open their eyes to what's possible here, the art of possible, and create an experience for them that they've never had before, which gives you pricing room.
I like that. I like
So,
that.
so homework being like, go through that discovery call, and how many times do you go to the doctor and tell them what to do?
Never.
Never, right? But accountants, for some reason, sometimes they let the clients kind of dictate what's going to happen, how this is going to go. When you walk into the doctor, you don't really get it. You walk over and you get on the scale, they weigh you, you're embarrassed. You walk over here and they take your temperature and they stick something in your ear, and then they leave the room. They leave you sitting there for 15 minutes, and they come back. And the doctor says whatever for 5 minutes, and they run blood, and you go home. But you didn't control any of that.
Right. Right.
But one of the processes you can take control of is this onboarding. And it's important because you want to get to a no. And I know that sounds weird,
Hmm.
but with what you're proposing with this advisory type of service, like, you want some of these clients to say, no, I'm not interested in that, so that you don't have to spend the hours and energy trying to get them to be something they don't want to be for you.
That's true. Yes. Yes.
So your next client, it could have a discovery call with intentional questions, trying to decide what kind of relationship, letting them start to imagine the power of services that you provide, and at a packaged price that includes return, the quarterlies, and a couple of good meetings during the year. That's going to allow you, hopefully, at a number higher than you're normally getting, especially since it's pro bono, and with a relationship that's going to be stronger, that's going to allow you to potentially even do more. I saw some other things on your website that you had listed, some of the other services that,
Yes.
some of this transaction stuff, the
Yes.
succession planning,
Yes.
like
Yes.
that relationship becomes the foundation for you to create additional opportunities with them.
That's right. And so you know what I'm taking away from this, all good stuff. And it's making me rethink even that onboarding process. So now I'm thinking, the initial, let's say they reach out, they book a meeting on my calendar. And could that process be more automated in terms of, could I even ask some basic questions during that process? Like, do
Mm-hmm.
you own a business? How much revenue, etc., to weed that out of the discovery call.
Mm-hmm.
Because now I'm usually spending my time during the discovery call, figuring out what do you need and what's your business, like your financial situation. But could that possibly be automated or captured prior to the discovery call? And then the discovery call, we can focus on the what
Mm,
and how we can work together and the value I can provide and
mm.
how this relationship is going to flourish year after year. So
I'm kind of getting excited.
that's what I'm gathering from this
Yeah.
conversation.
So my coach, I have a coach.
Okay.
I wouldn't be much of a coach if I didn't have one myself, right?
Right.
So my coach, she will talk to someone like 2 or 3 separate times before accepting them as a client.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's crazy because I usually do it in one. But she has a really good point in that, the first conversation, like I'm not gonna rush it. I really want to understand what they're after. I might
Mm-hmm.
have another call to explain a little bit more about what I do. I might have another call just to really firmly understand them. But what I'm really trying to express to them is that this is not a transaction. This is a relationship.
Yes.
And it's not something that you show up, you pay your money, and then we do the work and then you disappear. We're creating something not necessarily long term, but something meaningful. And
Right.
I think if we treat that onboarding process that way, then we might get that reflected back at us in that prospect.
I
And
agree.
everything kind of slows down.
Mm-hmm. I agree, and and it's funny because sometimes when I hear some of my clients say, "Oh, I referred you," and I told someone that you're my CPA, but I'm also thinking the level of service I provide to you, I don't want to provide that same level to someone else.
Right. Exactly. Right. Exactly. Like that's
I
not
want
my
to do
normal.
more, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to
Yeah.
do more because you need more. And
Mm-hmm.
so I want to develop a different reputation, so to speak. I don't want to be seen as this tax lady. Every year tax time, okay, I'll sign my engagement letter, I'll update my organizer, send
Right.
you my documents. Half the time, half of the clients, okay, you're done, they sign it, they don't ask any questions, they pay me and they're out. I don't want
So,
that. I want to get to know the client. I want to help them grow.
so give me the word. If it's not the tax lady,
If it's not
what's
a tax lady.
what is the word you want them to know you as?
Well, on my website, I think my title is Business Navigator and Growth Strategist.
Great. Great. I want to know more about this navigator. Like, I want to know what else the navigator provides. Like, what other services
Ex-
are we navigating?
exactly, right? So there's so much more I can do. I have so much experience from the corporate space.
Mm-hmm.
I've done project management, I've done compliance, risk management, accounting, taxes, you name it. And so I want people to think of me, even not just as a CPA, but this business advisor. I'm
Right.
here to be your partner. I can actually help you in other areas of your business outside of taxes. And so I want them to really see me as that partner and helping them navigate business and helping them grow, the growth strategist.
Out of your 85 clients, how many of them know that you do all that?
Maybe about five.
There you go. So, I think starting with this kind of this tax experience is kind
Hmm.
of how I kind of feel it. I think it's a great way to start. And then I think you having a couple of other, advisory services, you just named, a number of them just now, and having those, you've already got some of these on your website, but
Hmm.
having those in that either a discovery call or in those 30-minute to an hour meetings that you're having twice a year to remind them and share with them some of the other things you do is really important here.
Yes.
And I was always, I get it. I've been there, and spending time with the clients sometimes can get cumbersome, can get annoying, almost, because it's it's the same routine, same questions, same answers. But what I really found is in those conversations, the more I talk to the clients, the more opportunities I found to serve them. And the
Right.
longer I talk to them and the more questions I ask them, the more things I found that really added value to their businesses and lives. But if I hadn't have had those conversations or created room for them, I never would have known. And they wouldn't have known that I do what I do.
That is fair because during tax season you don't get that opportunity, right?
No.
We're under a deadline.
Hmm.
We're fumbling through. This person upload all of the documents. I've started a return. Oh, I'm still missing a document. Now I'm having
Yeah.
to
Right.
chase all the inefficiencies, and so you don't have time to sit and talk to each client. And
Hmm.
also, it's too late.
Right.
I'm having to prepare your return based on past events at this point,
Right.
and that's all I can do. But I definitely want to be more proactive with my clients. I definitely think that I add way more value than what I'm able to provide to a lot of them right now.
I get text messages from clients sometimes, periodically, but there's a few that are on a schedule
Hmm.
that we communicate, like, every Friday morning, or, every Thursday or whatever. And, it's part of my ability to stay in touch with them. They report to me certain things they're working on and doing. I respond to them, but I'm in their lives like every week. And I'm not
Yes,
encouraging you to do that, but there are ways for you to be deeper into the lives of your clients. And I think your tax experience is a step in that direction. And I think the more you're able to converse with them and educate them on some of the other opportunities that you have in serving them, I think you're going to start to see this advisory become a real thing.
I agree. I think it's so I have homework. I'm going to do my
Yes, you do.
homework. I'm going to do my homework, and it's about not trying to do everything at once, which I
Mm-mm.
often have to remind myself of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I can do it doesn't mean I should do it, or I don't have to do it right now.
Yep.
I constantly remind myself of that. But I think that, as you mentioned, having a conversation with the clients, building a deeper relationship, and the more I interact with them, the more I converse with them, the more they will know that I'm not just a tax lady,
Right.
that I can help them navigate their business and the financial structure and climate of everything, right?
Do you ever build jigsaw puzzles?
I don't.
No.
I don't have the patience.
So when I do jigsaw puzzles, usually I dump all the pieces onto the table,
Hmm.
and so it's a scattered mess. And I start by finding the edges, so the pieces that have like a flat edge, and I put them in
Okay.
a pile. And then I start associating the pieces by color, if I can, like the blues go here, the reds over
Hmm.
here, the yellows over here. And then I start looking for unique pieces. And then I slowly start to build, first of all, that structure, that foundation, which is what you have. You have the business, you have the foundation and the structure from which to make this picture happen. And then we're looking at this tax experience as a part of this puzzle that we're going to start building first. And once we're done with that, then we can move to the next part of the puzzle, the next part of the vision that you have for your business, and start building that. If we did it all at once, it would be extremely ineffective and inefficient, and it would take a lot of energy and suck a lot of our life away. But if
Hmm.
we're able to compartmentalize it and just focus and really be intentional about an area, it'll allow us to move into the next one with a better business and opportunities to experience something new.
That's what I want because long term, I give it 10 years, I want to exit a business.
Hmm,
So I'm very intentional about how I build it now.
good. We love that word around here. Intention's our
Yes.
favorite word.
Very intentional. Yes.
Keisha, was today helpful?
It was very helpful. And listen, I am going to revamp my discovery process, my
Mm,
onboarding process,
hmm.
and I will keep you guys posted on how it goes.
Thank you. I can't wait to hear. I can't wait to hear your
Yes.
first tax experience revamped process client.
Yes, yes, and it's getting me, it's pushing me beyond my comfort zone for sure.
Perfect.
Um, and just listen, I'm okay with hearing no
Hmm.
because each time I hear no, I get to refine my messaging, my value proposition, and it helps me better articulate my true value.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with hearing no. I still need to eat for sure.
Right. Yes. Yes, you do. Still need to be
um,
hungry too.
but I want to do it in a very methodical, intentional manner because I do have plans on exiting a business. And I want to be able to set up the processes in place now and over the next few years to get me where I need to be when it's time to exit.
Sounds to me like you're on your way.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us today, Kisha. It's been an honor to speak with you and learn from you and share this conversation, and can't wait to hear more about how this goes for you.
Thanks, Doug. I really appreciate it.